Today I'll be talking about this game I made. Uh, it is about cockroaches. It has become quite an unexpected story. So this game, it is called Point of View, You Are a Cockroach in My House. And I created it for a project, an academic project for a game studies class a couple of years ago, and then recently it's been doing very well. So the gameplay is generally you're a cockroach in my house and you steal food, and then you move it places. There's a designated place to move the food, and then you can be evil. Okay, so before I go any further, I think we'll just play the game for a few minutes so everybody's up to speed.
I didn't get to the be evil part, so I'm very curious what that means.
Um, it's more of just like a role play thing you have to pretend. All right, so if you click that link in the code chat, it'll take you, take you to my private server so we can all play together.
So is this actually the layout of your house at the time that you made this?
Yeah, so um, that's kind of funny. It is. Yeah, the house I was staying at for the school year was actually an Airbnb. Um, and so when I did this project, I was actually not at home. Well, I went home to like my house in another state, and so I wasn't here to like have a reference model, but I was able to use the Airbnb photos to as a reference. Yeah, the house is actually really interesting. It kind of has some lore to it. I live next to this neighbor. His name was Gizmo, a really interesting guy, and he used to tell stories about like his life and the house because he lived in the neighborhood for his whole life. Uh, so when the recording is off, I can tell you some interesting things, but I don't think I can tell you them now. Yeah. So anyway, this is the game. If you pay me money, you'll be able to find the food quicker.
I paid for it,
Okay,
but it
let's see
doesn't.
the
What does
bread.
it? What does it do? I turn it on, it doesn't do anything.
Same.
You should see outlines of where the food is.
Ah, okay, okay. I need to
Mhm.
get near food first. Oh yes. Hands off that pseudo bread. Oh no.
Wait, who has the Twizzler with me?
Can I take the bread off and then take it back in and get points? No, that's too bad.
No,
Who am I dragging around right now?
I think it must be Phoebe.
Can I steal it? Surely I should be able to steal it. Stops.
So how does the multiplayer work with the game being played? Like, do we each have to? Are we working as a team to get all the items there?
Yeah, it's a teamwork thing.
Oh, I'm attached to the donut, but I can't pull it at all. It doesn't do anything. Just the first person.
Oh yeah, because I had. Yeah, it doesn't like Roblox doesn't like sharing network ownership.
Ah, I see, I
So
see.
what I should really do is just like restrict objects to one player.
How does this outlining thing
Somebody
work?
found.
That's cool.
Oh, that's a new object. It's called the highlight object.
Huh. Yeah, this has changed quite a bit since when I played it. I think it didn't have the vision, it didn't have these outlines. I don't think there was this progress thing on the left.
I just ripped the banana into many pieces for a bit. I pulled it through something.
I want to be evil. There's your skateboard.
Hopefully one. Sure. I
Yay!
think I'll switch back to the presentation now.
Oh, what? Don't touch the human, huh? Damn.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
no.
I'll get to the. Oh, what happened?
The recording's looking back at
Right.
your screen now.
Cool. All right. So, oh yeah, like I mentioned, this is actually my house. This was like the only photo I have that doesn't have like a person in it or some food that I cooked or something.
Uh,
Oh, actually, there is a second one. This is my monitor looking at my virtual monitor.
You didn't bother to make the tap in the sink.
Yeah, I actually was thinking about that when I took the photo. I don't, that would have been so easy. Okay. So I'm gonna start with some backstory for the game and just kind of the history of it. So it started out I was taking a game studies class, and our final project was to create a game. And I think the game was supposed to be like the idea was we break it down into verbs, and so my verbs were like walking on walls, stealing, and then the original draft there was like teleporting. We'll actually see that real soon. But yeah, anyway, so the first draft took me about 2 days. I got a B on it. Second draft took me 3 days, 3 more days, and I got an A, so that's cool. Right, so this video, this is the original version. And in this version, you'll see me walk into a portal. And the idea behind that was that when the cockroaches would walk around my house, they would like suddenly disappear, like they were very hard to track. And so that was my way of showing is that they can teleport. All right. So that was the first version of it. And then here are just some photos working on the current version, some modeling the house. I had also played with the idea of like having roaches hide in the shadows, but that just kind of didn't have enough time. And then, so I released the game. The project was originally in December of 2020, and I kind of forgot about it. And then one day I checked back and realized, holy crap, it has 50,000 visits. And so that was almost a year later, September 2021. And so I just kind of kept following it, and it kept growing. So then a few months later in December, some big YouTubers covered it, a Korean YouTuber and a French YouTuber. And then by the next year, this April, I had 222,000 visits. And then by the next month, it had grown another 70,000 visits. Uh, and then this summer, I kept working on it. So I improved the graving mechanic. I added gamepad support. I fixed the bread. All right, I added translation support.
Yay!
Yeah. Right, and so I guess these paid off, or maybe I just got lucky a couple of months ago, or what are we in? We're in August. Yeah, so last month. Oh, this was 2 weeks ago. Yeah, it hit 500,000 visits just 2 weeks ago. And then last Thursday, something happened where I was working on the game. It was like 3 p.m. I was in studio and I checked back onto the website just to like play test it, and suddenly I noticed there were 300 people playing. And since then, it has only grown more and more, and I do not know
Wow.
why, but I am. Yeah, it's cool.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, and so just a couple of days ago, it hit 1 million.
So obviously it's not a surprise that if YouTubers cover it, then you expect, for some period after that, people notice it. But all these visits are probably just some algorithm somewhere recommending it, or how are people actually finding this? I have no idea how this
Yeah.
happens.
Um, so the original those two YouTube videos were from last year, and there were player bumps for like a couple days after those videos.
Hmm.
But this has been pretty consistent, and I haven't found any new videos. I mean, I've searched like Roblox Cockroach so many times into YouTube,
Right.
but I've only found those couple videos. So I think this is really just the Roblox algorithm at work.
Hmm.
And yeah, a lot of people complain about Roblox discovery. I do too, but I guess I'm the lucky, uh, I'm the chosen one this week. So
I guess I don't even know where people discover it. Do you think actually people see it on the front page of Roblox, or people are often clicking through? I mean, YouTube has several discovery mechanisms, right? Not just the homepage, but when you finish watching a video, there's recommendations both on the main sort of pane and also on the right hand side. But Roblox doesn't really work like that, right? It's not like you quit a game and you see like you may like the following 4 games. It's just sort of the home screen. Do people really click through like the pages after pages of things and see your game on the third page? I mean, I
uh,
very rarely do that, for example. I'm not a typical Roblox user, I guess, but
I don't know. My guess would be like the your friends are playing sort that shows up on the homepage. Besides that, I don't really know. I haven't advertised this at all except for my Twitter.
that's a good guess. Yeah, that makes sense. That is, in fact, the way that I've found several of the things I find interesting. So, yeah, I guess that's consistent with my experience.
Yeah.
And that explains the kind of exponential, too, right?
Yeah. Um, yeah, I know that can only really go on for so long, so I've been really frantically working on the game. That's kind of all I've done the past couple weeks.
Yeah, well, yeah, as I said on Twitter, hit 1 billion and then uh, and then Roach View will fund your next 5 years of living.
Yeah, well, it's actually been very well. It's done very well as far as monetization goes.
Yeah, if you don't mind me asking, when I'm not going to ask you how much you made, obviously, but when did you add that? Was that recent, or because I don't think it was there when I played, which was probably a year ago.
Um, gosh, when did I- maybe it was recent. It was like maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago,
Because I have to say
and I
that,
added it at a good time.
yeah, does strike me as, I mean, there's some of the ways Roblox games are monetized. I find pretty terrible as a parent, right? Because I mean, I keep my son away from a lot of Roblox games for this reason because they're kind of gross. But this strikes me as exactly the thing I wanted to buy, so not objectionable at all. In case you care.
Yeah, no,
You gotta
I'm
add
definitely trying to cash in on it, but I have some morals to it. I'm not like a loot box kind of guy.
you gotta add a lizard, other insect costumes, like a mouse costume or something.
Did you say a
Yeah,
mouse
I think that would
costume?
be simple enough.
Is that an insect?
Yeah, I know.
Insect
Okay,
costume.
well, no, I rodents, I guess. Whatever.
Pest costumes. Okay.
Yeah, pests.
Well,
Yeah.
we did have a rat, so that would make sense.
I think you should be able to leave traps for other cockroaches.
Oh, okay. I need to write that down somewhere.
That'd be awesome.
Okay. All right, write that in my phone. All right. Yeah. So the next thing I wanted to talk about was some takeaways from working on the game. Um, so I guess before that, I should explain what my design philosophy has been, which is that there is none. I really treat it just like a game jam. Like whatever goes goes. I just uh, try to get everything out as fast as possible. And so most of the decisions for this game end up being made past midnight, and there's been a lot of bad decisions because of that.
I think I disagree a little. It's clear that you care about the way it feels because it does feel pretty good and it could feel terrible, right? So, with the climbing up the walls and the way the camera works and the motion and the dragging, maybe you're talking about like high level gameplay things, but clearly you've put a lot of effort into making it feel good, which is why it's fun to play, right? Like the old school games didn't have much high level design, but they just felt awesome, and this kind of strikes me as a bit similar. Like it feels good to play, and you clearly put effort into that.
I see. Yeah, there have been some mechanics, especially the grabbing. I put a lot of effort into that. But as far as like, I mean, the game design is like really bad. I mean, actually, I'll tell you my metrics. So my retention is like not retention, engagement. I think I'm looking at the wrong thing. What I'm looking for is like the average play time, but it's something really crap. It's like 5 minutes, which is, I think the average Roblox game is about, okay, I have no idea where it is. I think the average game is about 15 minutes. So the game design is not good, but you're right that some things I have put a lot of effort into.
Is there meant to be more than 5 minutes of content? It seems that's pretty long, isn't it?
Yeah, it doesn't take 5 minutes to finish the whole game.
Yeah, well, I guess ideally I would like the retention to be higher. Uh, all right. So I'll get into the first one. So the first one is to use, first takeaway is to use the data model as your source of truth. And so this is something that Quenty likes to talk about if you've ever seen some of his talks. And so I'm still kind of learning what this means. But to me, what this means is two things. So the first one is to avoid writing custom data structures. And so I mean that a lot of times Roblox developers really like to reinvent the wheel, like reinvent everything. And I think that's a waste of time when Roblox provides certain functionality for us. So you should use those. And then the second thing, in order to like facilitate um, using Roblox's data model, is you still need to be able to bind state to it. Uh, and so to do that, one way, uh, a binder, this is something that Quenty's come up with for his Nevermore engine, but it's really just a philosophy of binding state to Roblox's instances instead of using Roblox, or instead of uh, creating your own state and then applying it to a Roblox instance. And so one nice thing about this philosophy is that it's free. And by free, I mean all of the state already exists in the data model. You just have to read from it. And okay, I keep saying data. What I mean by data model is like the hierarchy of your game, like everything that's in the Explorer. Uh, so it's free. The state is already there. There's no need to recreate it. Another thing is that it plays well with physics. So you'll have a really hard time using your code as the source of truth in terms of physics because Roblox controls its own physics. And the same goes for streaming. That you really have no control over physics of streaming, so there's really no point in trying to take control of that. And then the last thing is that it requires writing our code more reactively.
Can I just ask about the streaming thing? You said it plays well with it, but say, like, is there any possibility of, like, you're using a data model as a source of truth, but maybe for like a particular like entity, the state is going to be spread across like a bunch of different um like instances, and is I don't know, I don't really know about streaming that much, but is it possible for like some of those instances to exist and some of them not? Can you guarantee that it'll like the entire thing will be there, or only or none of it will be there?
Yeah, so historically, it's been true that parts of a model can load in, a model can load in like only parts of it. So you'll have like a half missing model, and so that's why it's important to react to that. I think there are actually changes coming, but I don't know if those are live in terms of streaming the entire object in at once.
When you say react to it, are there like signals or something that like you listen for the like signal of like a child being added to an instances or something? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, child added works. Collection service works well too.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'll actually here. So this next one, I'll show you how I tackled this problem of like binding state to Roblox objects. I made this small module. I called it collect. It's like a low budget version of Binder, where Binder lets you tag a class or like a code object onto a Roblox instance.
Yeah.
My version of it is just a simplified version of instance added and instance removed. And actually, also, I'll show you an example of where I use this.
I don't understand what the X is. Can you go back for a second?
Oh, it can just mean anything.
Oh, okay. Just stands for some condition. All right.
Yeah, so I'll show you an example of that. So the way grabbing works is that there's a proximity prompt in the client, and when you activate the proximity prompt, it sends a signal to the server, and then the server creates a rope connecting you and the food. Okay, and it's really large. Okay, so I guess I'll back up. So grabbing, first we need to attach proximity prompts to the food. And so this uses collect. We tag things that are props or just food, same thing. And so here's that if X thing. So in this case, wait, no, I'm lying to you. This is actually different. But yeah, anyway, so when something gets tagged, we add a proximity prompt to it or any later children. And then later on, when the server creates that rope, we also use collect for that. So Roblox tags, or sorry, the server tags that rope, that it's a rope, and then that gets collected here. And then, so here, okay, this is the if X. So if that rope, if its attribute is my user ID, then I know that it's my rope. And then it gets added to the table. Otherwise, it doesn't get added. But the table here, I'm not even using the table.
So what's this collect to table function do?
Yeah, so it returns a table, and then that table is it's a dictionary of everything that's been tagged, or really everything that you've let it tag. Because if something returns nil, then it doesn't get added to the table.
But when you call that function internally, it like sets up the collection service events.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Summary. Anyway, so yeah, that was just my solution to reacting to things that have been tagged. Second takeaway, kill your darlings. So this is a phrase that's used among like authors when you have, say, a storyline or a character you think is really good but doesn't really contribute much to the story. You have to kill your darlings. And so in the context of games, if it's not helping your game, remove it. You don't want to be held back by features that you don't need. So like originally I'd wanted to do a single player story, but this is Roblox and single player games don't last. so I converted it to multiplayer. And then this isn't exactly in the spirit of Kill Your Darlings, but like I'm quite the hoarder of code. But I think it's important to delete old code and move on.
What's something you deleted? Not necessarily code, but I mean, there must have been more than just giving up on single player. Was there like an apple?
I also, oh, sorry, say that again.
Was there an apple as well as a banana? And you got rid of the apple.
Oh well, the Jello did go,
Jello. I see.
but also the portals from the original version.
Mm.
Yeah, originally it didn't have wall walking. I replaced portals with wall walking because portals I thought would be too confusing.
I think the wall walking is what makes it somehow. I have to say, as somebody who, I mean, when I first played it, I think I didn't know you very well, so it was just kind of like poking at the things that people I see on Roblox had made, and it strikes me as quite, it's in some way quite idiomatic for Roblox. I don't know, like not meant to be kind of like very pretty in the sense that a lot of modern games try to be, right? But just kind of bounded and just fun and a little bit silly or something. I don't know. I think it's always the thing that comes into my mind as the kind of thing that I think is cool about Roblox. Not to be too, yeah. So I think it's cool.
Yeah, thanks. I think that kind of naturally fell out of the time constraint for the project of well, okay. I'm sure I got like a month to actually make the game, but I probably just crammed it in 3 days. But I think the result is good. Okay, and then the last one is just use Roact or your favorite declarative UI library, because currently the UI is an absolute pain in the ass to maintain. Um, yeah, there are plenty of reasons listed. One of them that's currently annoying is the last one, which is easy input type switching. So what I mean is, if the user's last input type was gamepad, then you need to show, the A, B, X, Y, or whatever instead of the keyboard button or the mouse button. And same goes for mobile. Mobile users have a completely different UI. It's just annoying doing all of this in vanilla UI. So vanilla means like creating the UI with Roblox's UI creator, or yeah, just like in with objects instead of code, and coordinating the state of these objects just becomes insurmountable. And yeah, so I'm actually paying somebody to convert my UI to React right now.
So is the UI is it just for gamepad input? Because I didn't really see anything other than like the Y roach vision or like the proximity prompts, but that's not with Roac, right?
Yeah, so nothing currently is with React. All of the UI is okay. So these are not used. So it's only these that doesn't exist. So there's the quests. So the quest is tells you which items you have left to collect. There's the winning thing, which tells you you won. Yeah. And so you can see all of these scripts, all of the code, all the UI functionalities just done in traditional scripts. And it's awful. I mean, there's really I didn't even attempt to like have some kind of order to things. Like this one has some module script, and the Roach Vision 2, it communicates with the module script using functions, but then the module script communicates with the regular script using a bindable.
Oh no.
Yeah, anyway, the whole thing is just a mess and I don't want to touch it.
So wait, you said just use Roact or whatever, but so there's two parts of it, and some people have there are some like tools for like creating the UI in Roblox Studio, which I think it like you could argue that that experience of actually being able to click and drag things around and resize things like with the Roblox Studio, um, like in Roblox Studio is much more desirable than doing it in code. Even if you have like a sort of hot reloading thing and you can uh, like try different numbers to like resize things. So when you say just use React, are you just talking about the like the state management part of things, or also the UI creation?
Oh, I totally agree with you. The UI creation is much better using Roblox objects. The just use part doesn't mean only use. It means like it's an exasperation thing. It's like just use a thing.
On the other hand, it's not what you did. Like, so maybe it's not cool, but what you did was hack out some UI and it sucked. But then when it actually seemed to matter, you're now doing it properly. You're telling people to not do that and do it properly from the beginning. But is it actually faster? I see.
I mean, it certainly is faster at the start, but like it says, you can't move fast, you can't move at all. I currently almost cannot move at all.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I think it is worth putting in thought up front. Okay, so that's a bit about the backstory of the game,
Sorry, did you have
and
more?
about the development.
That point on the previous slide, did you want to elaborate on that more outside of the? Maybe you didn't just mean about the UI, right? So I'm interested to
Oh,
hear.
yeah, so that's a general comment of like my approach of treating everything as a game, treating as a game jam, has led to some really awful code that's difficult to maintain, and that extends beyond the UI.
Like one technique is to make like you make the first prototype with like and make it as hacky as possible, and just so it like works the first time, and then there's like a whole second path, which is basically rewrite the whole thing, um, in like with a more thought out method. Um, what do you think of that approach? Like, do you think it's better to plan it out a little bit so that there's a more seamless transition from like the first hacky thing to the like better thought out version?
I don't think there's one solution, but what you're describing of starting with something hacky and then fixing it up, I recently did that for the new character control that I'm implementing. That actually worked very well. Um, and so that's essentially a microcosm of what I've done for the entire game, which is make something hacky and now fix it. And maybe it wouldn't bother me so much if it weren't happening at the absolute worst time, because suddenly everybody started playing the game, and it's difficult for me to add features until I rewrite certain things.
Apart from just seeing the numbers go up, I mean, it's not like you have to manage servers or anything. So the newfound popularity, is there any way in which it puts a burden on you apart from trying to capitalize on it? But it's not like things are crashing and you got to put out fires or something, is it?
There are a few issues. Okay, so there actually really was a big fire where I was working on the um, what was it? Okay, it was the roach button. I was trying to fork the code so that the mobile button would be closer to the thumb, and I published it and then joined the game, and you could not even see the button. So for like an hour, I couldn't. So sad, I couldn't earn any money from mobile players.
I'm just imagining you on the bus, madly trying to open Studio, like. Yeah, that's cool.
Wait, you saying you were moving the button closer to your thumb so that it would like you're trying to make it easier, more likely someone will click it? Or
Yeah, let me show you the mobile button. It's over here now. Yeah, so the bug was, so the size and position of this button is based on the touch button. And in Studio, the emulator, it works perfectly fine. The device is in portrait mode. However, when you join the game from a real mobile device, the game first starts in, or sorry, yes, it first starts in portrait and then moves to landscape. So the touch button moves. And so what was happening is that this button was based on the position of the original placement, which was off the screen, and so you couldn't see it. Uh, yeah,
So with if you used React or something, you would have it like the state is the position of that button, and the position of the rich button is like reacts to changes.
yeah. And in this case, it wasn't even like a React issue. It was more that I didn't have a staging environment. I just deployed it to the live server without testing it. Well, I tested it in Studio, and of course, the emulator didn't properly emulate in Studio.
Well, you you paid for that lesson. You learned it now, I guess.
Yeah, I have a new file. POV, you develop a cockroach game. That's my staging.
Do you think
Okay.
your title contributed to the success of the game? It's a pretty
Oh,
good
I think
title.
absolutely. I think the title and the thumbnails like contribute to the meme factor.
Mm. Was that Did you workshop a few names, or was that the first one you came up?
That was the first one because
Yeah,
it's what the game is.
there's really something about like I've had this so many times where like the first name you think of like usually sticks, and there's like some, even if you think of like maybe a better name that like encapsulates something more, like there's some magic to the first name because there's a reason you thought of the first name. And yeah.
It makes sense. Let's see. Okay. So what's next for the game? The goal that I'm eventually moving toward is to have cockroaches perform certain tasks while humans try to swat them. So the current game has one type of task, which is collect the things. Uh, oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay. So in the short term, a few changes. I have an improved character controller. I actually want your thoughts on it, so I might have us play it right now. Uh, so yeah, I'm gonna add flying for more Robux, add more food, and then rewrite the UI. That's short term. And then this is really, because I'm playing catch up. This is sort of just a series of pivots. So that in the midterm, new quests. So currently there's collecting certain things. Maybe we could have eating things. One, I like a friend, he suggested piloting an RC car as a team. I thought that sounds very hard to do, but it sounds like a good idea. And
As a
have any
team, did you
suggestions, I'll
say?
take them. Yeah, so like each person gets a thumbstick on a controller.
As a cockroach.
Yeah,
Interesting. Yeah, the swatting thing makes sense. That's like I kind of expected the humans to do more when we were playing, so I was waiting for somebody to step on me or something.
yeah. I think I've come up with a pretty good way to incorporate that.
Oh man,
The
this
issue is
this is
that
what the VR players can do. Add VR players who can step on the cockroaches.
yeah, I definitely want to do that. The trouble is supporting humans for mobile. Like, okay, so yeah, the easiest possible is to support it for VR. Like that makes total sense. For mobile, uh, the controls are more difficult. The cockroaches are small; they move fast. Your body is in the way. Um, but I think I've come up with a decent solution for it. I think it would take. I don't want to explain it now, but yeah. So that's what we're moving toward is adding humans.
every time I think about adding some feature, I then have some thought like, oh, how's this feature gonna work in mobile? Like I'm not gonna need to add a button to the screen, and I don't know. It always seems like I'm tempted to just like decide to not support like mobile interaction for things because there's never any like hover mechanic that you can make use of. It always has to be some kind of button or proximity prompt.
Yeah,
But
mobile is a pain in the ass. The trouble is that a majority
most
of my players are phone and tablet.
yeah,
Uh, but yeah, I wish Roblox had more like out of the box support for mobile. There is one thing which is context action service, which will like let you bind a button to an action, but I hate using it, and the buttons that it creates are just ugly. Oh right, okay. So last thing I want to talk about is the new character controller I've been working on. So the existing character controller in the game uses Ego Moose's wall stick controller, and so we're using something similar in Gemini Pulsar that actually uses Ego Moose's gravity controller, like two separate systems that do pretty much the same thing. This new one is based on Armon's controller. So if you've been following in, I don't know, we were in some chat in the Discord, but Armand, he's in MetaUni, he's working on a new character controller. It's pretty awesome, and so he let me pick his brain, and I kind of made a very basic version of what he has. And so the way it works, I think, is pretty simple. First, we find nearby parts around the character. That's a built-in query that's just workspace get part bounds in radius. And then what we do is we loop through each part and we get the signed distance. So this, basically, we just determine which part is nearest to our character. And then the third step is to find the nearest point on that part to the character and then have a gravity force towards it.
what do you mean by sign distance?
Yeah, that's a good question. So a signed distance function it's the function that gives the minimum distance between a point and a surface, and so it's signed because if the point is outside of the surface, then it's positive. The distance is positive. If it's inside the surface, then the distance is negative.
Right, right.
And the importance of having it be signed, at least for my case, is that if the sign is negative, then you're inside the object, and so you don't want to gravitate toward it. So here's some examples. This is a box. So the orange curves, those are like the level sets of distance function. Although this one only shows the outside. And then here's an example of a capsule. I got these two images from a guy named Inigo Quiles. Have you ever heard of Shader Toy? He co-created that. It's a website for sharing GPU shaders. But he's really cool. He's written articles on every graphics problem ever. He actually recently received an award at the SIGGRAPH conference a couple days ago. But anyway, so yeah, so I've been using some of his articles for reference for my signed distance functions. And then the other part of the system is the closest point query, which requires a bit more information than an SDF. SDF it doesn't uh, need like an exact position, but anyway, like the methods for closest point in an SDF are a bit different. Um, so the strategy that I've been taking for these closest point queries is to break up the surface into faces, edges, and vertices, and consider each of those to be a site in a Voronoi diagram, which we've talked about before. So I'll switch to my tablet now and just briefly explain to you what I mean by that. So let's take a box. This box has 4 edges, so we'll consider each of these 4 to be separate sites, and then we'll also add the vertices as sites. And then the cells of the diagram would look like this. And so the idea is to determine which cell, so if this is like our query point, which cell in the Voronoi diagram is the point in, and then we'll at least know the nearest site, and then we can do, then we can like say, project this edge, and that's the nearest point. And then I think, I also have an image like this is how a triangle would look.
How complicated are the surfaces you need to handle? They seem like they're almost all boxes. Is that right?
Yeah, so majority boxes, those are really easy. Cylinders are really easy. Spheres are the easiest. But I also have wedges and corner wedges, which I have not solved yet. Now, a wedge is really just a triangle with a third dimension. So that's going to be the one that I tackle next because I think that should be the easiest. But for corner wedge, what I'm working on actually is a general algorithm to do this calculation. Somebody shared with me a book that has an algorithm that I want to implement, and so I'll probably use that for corner wedge.
I think it's really cool that all the stuff you presented in your talks and Voronoi diagrams and so on is like something you're now reaching for in crisis to like double your income. It's it's very rare that I've seen like such a tight connection between understand some math and making a living. It doesn't usually work like this.
I think that's why I gravitate to Roblox so much, uh, is because it's a place where math is easily applied, and I guess money is nice too. But uh, I mean that's really what spawned my interest in math. Was like it started out as I needed to learn certain math out of necessity to make a game, and then it became that I actually just wanted to learn the math.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah, so I'll get the link for the staging environment, and I want to get your opinions on how it feels.
So I think in the first talk I ever saw you gave at MetaUni, you had a list of like canonical things a Roblox developer should do, and one was make some money or have a successful game and then quit school. It's too late for you to quit school, man. So it's like, what mistake are you going to make now?
Oh, yeah, no, there was a period of like a few years where that was the trend. It's like quit school and start a developer house. Uh, I think getting the degree is the smart idea. So certain things are missing, obviously, like the character doesn't rotate along the surface, and there's also no jumping. But going around corners is very easy now.
I am stuck on the wall with my head pointing into the wall. Why is it? Yeah, this is my the character model's orientation is all screwed up.
Yeah, I just haven't added support for that yet. I actually, in a separate file, I just haven't put it into this version. But what I think makes this one really nice is that you can go around corners of walls and not fall off. Currently in the game, you can't do that.
So you, with the old one, I definitely was. I I mean, I was having a little fun with like running off the edge of a surface just so I could like fly off in the direction for a bit. But I mean, that was fun, but this kind of makes more sense, I guess.
That's a good point. I certainly don't want to kill the fun, but yeah, that was. I did want to like improve the goal, which was like just walk on the walls.
It come, when I go up this like corner of the sink, my character goes a little crazy
Yeah.
when you hit right.
Getting on the soccer ball is also a bit dangerous too.
I'll come over to you.
Oh, that time it kind of worked.
Wait,
Yeah,
can't.
it has the same issue as Gemini Pulsar actually. So when I'm on the sphere, sometimes the camera just freaks out and starts spinning around. Oh, okay. We managed to push the ball somehow.
I don't think I can jump anymore. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, I haven't had to jump in yet.
Oh, okay.
Oh, we can play soccer. You should add soccer.
Is there anything you do about the craziness when you like walk right up a
Wait, what do you mean, Billy?
what do you call it when you like walk up, you know, this bit up here? Wait, maybe this corner. Yeah, that. Can you see me in this corner?
Yeah.
Yeah, it goes wild when you're like right in the very
Oh,
end of it.
yeah. I think it's just quickly switching between the walls. What I could do is like um, average the forces from the nearby surfaces.
I think the
Oh,
main.
yeah.
I never felt like the original movement was a problem unless I was holding some of the larger objects. It was, sometimes a little bit irritating trying to pull a banana somewhere and deal with it falling off the surface or whatever. So I can imagine there's some benefit to the new character.
So is there zero gravity and you're just always applying forces?
Oh, there's a force to counteract gravity, and then you're right. Then there's a force towards the nearest object.
Oh, okay. I thought you could. Can't you like mod? I thought gravity was like a property of the workspace or something that you can modify.
Oh yeah, so I haven't like set it to zero because the food objects need gravity.
Oh, right, of course.
Also, I think one of the issues you were having of walking up the couch, that's because you were walking up a wedge, and wedges don't have a. Their SDF is just a box right now.
It's strange. I'm just walking along the floor and the camera starts rotating around me madly. There's nothing there.
Oh, is it spinning like
Yeah, this is actually
around the up axis?
that's right. Yeah, like
Okay,
not.
yeah, that's a bug. I've only ever encountered it on mobile, but I yeah,
It
that's an
also
issue. So
also
the way that
happens to me in Gemini Pulsar. So I don't know. It's related.
yeah, so that's because both of them use Ego Moose's camera code, and I think it wasn't his code really that's the issue, but it was that Roblox updated their own camera code, and so
I see.
they injected. Yeah, but so the reason the existing game doesn't have an existing character controller is because that version of the player module is from like 2 years ago, so it doesn't have the updated code. So I might just stick that back in.
How are you doing these rounded corners? Is this a model? Like a mesh part? Sorry, this chopping board.
Oh, the chopping board. Oh, yeah, those are unions.
Okay.
Did you design this chopping board yourself?
I did, yeah. It's like I just went on Google Images for chopping board.
That's a carpentry school.
Can you add? You make the legs like run, like wiggle as you walk, so it looks like you're
Yeah, that's
running.
actually harder than you would think because I actually spent a few days doing this of rigging the roach because it was just separate parts, and so I had to rig it together with joints, and then animating that is even harder because there's just so many joints to animate. I'm trying to get a friend to do it, but uh, he doesn't want to.
Have you done any animation before?
But yeah, sure, I could animate it myself. Pretty crap. I mean, maybe that's kind of the whole game, though. Just add to the
Man,
charm of it.
what do you mean?
Uh, I just mean like the animation wouldn't look very good, but the game doesn't really
Oh,
take itself very seriously.
yeah, yeah. It sort of ties into. I just don't like when I can tell that like I'm really just like a rectangular prism that's like sliding around the place, and it's like there's some simple animation like tricking me into believing I'm like running or something. I don't know. I think that I like notice that a lot. Um,
Yeah, so the version of Ego Moose's character controller that's in Gemini Pulsar, I tried it in my game, and it looks pretty awful because uh, in my, there's no animations on the Cockroach, whereas there are animations on the Roblox characters, and those animations actually hide the jankiness quite well.
mm,
Yeah, you're basically running a little ruler around in your experience, which is giving you very clear feedback on all these things. Yeah. Great. Thanks, Ethan.